Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin Rudd. I'm president of the Asia Society in New York. We're doing a series of interviews with Asian Americans who are building America. That's the name of our campaign, because we want to speak to Asian Americans right across the length and breadth of the United States who are doing their bit to build this great country. And today I'm talking to Ranjan Dey. He's the owner and the chef of one of the oldest Indian restaurants in San Francisco. His Bay Area business is combating the virus, but his Bay Area business has also been combating racism. And that's what I want to talk to Ranjan about today. And so, Ranjan, you've been in business since, I think, 1988. Am I right? That's a fair old stretch of time. You must have served a few meals in that period of time, one or two anyway.
One or two. Just closing up to 2 million almost.
Well, 2 million meals, that'll give you a fair degree of exposure to the general American public. So tell me, what's it been like? Have you been experiencing problems with racism towards Asian Americans in recent times? Has it been changing? Just let me know what it's like on the receiving end of this.
The receiving end of this has been pretty painful, to tell you the truth. We have been a part and parcel of the San Francisco Bay Area for 32 years now. The reason I chose Bay Area, San Francisco, is because of the wonderful diversity. It is truly a melting pot. However, in recent years, things have been enabled where the ugly underbelly of the society, which we do not agree on, have reared its head. And that's where all the pain and the suffering is coming from. COVID is just an excuse to really target Asian Americans. I have had people come right into the restaurant and say, "Why are you doing a restaurant? Why not a 7-Eleven?" I mean, imagine that, saying that to somebody. And also the whole idea of just sometimes the hatred and the anger which you feel, which is unsaid sometimes. And that's even more difficult to, really combat. Combat is a very bad word. I don't use combat. For me, it's all about being inclusive. I don't know who said it, but I remember is an unknown author who said racial superiority is a mere pigment of the imagination.
Well, I think they're absolutely right. Any race that thinks it's superior to another race has frankly got rocks in their head and frankly hasn't done much historical research. It's just an absolute nonsense, but it's also offensive nonsense and it's aggressive nonsense. Have you found that this problem has got worse in the last 12 months since COVID, or was it bad before then?
It had started, I would say, the last 2-3 years, but when the COVID hit, and it was almost broadcasted that Chinese people are responsible for COVID, it actually precipitated into everybody Asian. And like Indians are considered all Middle Eastern now. Come on. That's a sign of ignorance to start with. For me, I lived the life of a global citizen. I grew up all over the world. I had restaurants in Hong Kong, 5 of them, before I moved to San Francisco. I had restaurants in Singapore. I had restaurants in Bangkok. My wife is Caucasian American, whom I met in Hong Kong. My son-in-law is two son-in-law. One is Nigerian, one is Italian, Irish. And so I live the life of a global citizenship. I believe you can enjoy so much delicious texture when you're more inclusive. than trying to be too exclusive. And it makes your life rich in every flavor and deliciousness you can think of, And I sometimes feel sorry for people who are ignorant and therefore very afraid of something they don't know and don't know how to handle it. Love is a beautiful ingredient to make sure we can overcome it. However, it does take a lot of patience and education. And in that process, we can get hurt. You can never shake a hand with a clenched fist. You can never shake a hand. So once your fist is open, we can actually welcome each other into a beautiful world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, diversity in communities adds spice and color and taste and texture. And when I was Prime Minister of my own country, I used to speak to large gatherings and say to all Asian Australians, thank you for coming to our country. At last you've liberated us from English food. And
absolutely.
Anglo-Saxon cuisine is the worst in the world. Whereas if you then have Indian food, Vietnamese food, Chinese food, Japanese food, Korean food, Malay food, suddenly you've got this cornucopia of tastes and taste experiences and cultural experiences. And your family, your extended family you just described, seems to be the embodiment of that. Tell me, in your restaurant, how many people do you employ?
Before COVID, we have close to 14 people. Right now, it is down to 6.
Yeah.
However, we reopened the restaurant after being closed a whole year, 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm looking forward. Because of the location of my restaurant, which is downtown San Francisco, where all the hotels are shuttered, all the shops are closed, all the offices are empty, I believe it's going to take me 6 months to get to 50% of my business, and then most probably 1 more year to get back to a new normal. We don't know what the new normal is. But
well, I wish you well in the recovery of the business, because it's been a tough time, particularly in the restaurant trade right around the world. So full marks to you for generating jobs, keeping people in employment, despite the fact that it's in the downtime, making it possible for people to put food on the table, literally, but also food on the table for the folks who work for you as well. Now, tell me, Ranjan, as someone who's been in the United States for more than 30 years, what's it feel like when someone unburdens on you with a racist attack? How does it make you feel as a human being?
I can do what is in my control. And that I always wanted to be positive. If you are unloading on me and expecting me to retaliate, I am not going to do that. Because I am going to use a different thing. Without a sense of caring, there can be no sense of community. So when you're unburdening me, I am going to try and educate you and put forward my, loving hand. Yeah, it's going to take me way more courage, and I am going to risk myself into putting myself in a situation where I am going to get hurt. But when I do that, instead of retaliating, I have a better chance of changing that one person. And I can just do that. If I can do that and everybody can do that, we are going to move forward. Go ahead. So
I was about to say, it sounds a bit like the spirit of the Mahatma there, my friend. So,
yes, he said differently. He said an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. but, but that is very true.
The Mahatma had some serious wisdom about this.
Yeah.
And having put up with the British for most of his life,
that non-violent movement of non-cooperation took way more courage when you are getting hit by the butt of the gun, but not being shot at, and you're saying, no, I'm not going to move. I am going to go on a fasting, and then I'm going to show you what you're doing to me. That is absolutely not acceptable. But, that's the thing. British tried to take over India with gunpowder, but we took over whole of England with curry powder.
and
non-violent way.
My experience of curry powder is also much more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
So when tell me this. You're in the restaurant and someone says something utterly foul to you. Applying the principles of the Mahatma, how do you try and change that person? How do you respond?
It happens to a restaurant owner and the staff of restaurateurs every day.
Every day. My God.
There are people who are coming who are foul. And so there is a standing order in my restaurant to all my staff, men and women. As soon as somebody makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to go to that table anymore. Come talk to me. I will take care of the table. And I always love to kill everybody with kindness. Show them how stupid and ignorant they are being.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's I make them very uncomfortable.
By your kindness.
Yes. Because, Kevin, look, you need way more intelligence to be witty than just being rough, tough, and just being, foul-mouthed. There is no talent in that.
You're absolutely right about that. So, what would be if there are people watching this video who themselves, from time to time, have been out there being foul-mouthed to Asian Americans, being racist, saying hurtful things, or doing hurtful things? What's your kernel of wisdom that you'd ask them to reflect on? If you're speaking to a large audience, not just the one person in your restaurant.
There is two things I'm going to say to them. First, when you're faced with the violence, pause. Pause yourself. Do not react. You have to respond. Do not react. And when you respond with something in mind which is going to go way further than just immediate satisfaction of one up in being foul. The second thing is, a lot of my, especially women friends and family members are scared, how they are going to be treated if they're waiting for a bus or they're going outside in the street. I would like to tell them it's just like waiting for a bus and you're late. You're just, oh shit, why? I want the bus to come fast. Well, that's not going to come any faster, So do not imagine that everybody around you is going to attack you, because that's going to drive you crazy, make you very fearful. But be aware, of your surroundings and be ready if something happens. That will keep you more positive and in presence than being scared all the time and almost have a flight mode if something happens. That way you can address it better. That would be what I would do.
Yeah, last thing I'd ask is, if, for example, there are white folks like me, and I'm 100% white. I'm sorry to tell you that, 100% white. And Irish on one side, English on the other, no imagination. That's just my ethnicity. So there are white folks like me who, they're in a group of white folks, they're in the restaurant, and one of them says something racist to the staff or to you. What should other white folks do in terms of, frankly, pulling the offending one into line? Because often people just choose to shut up and just to watch it happen. They may even feel a bit embarrassed about it. But what do you think other white folks should do? I mean, I have a pretty strong view they've got a moral responsibility to speak up and act and just say that's unacceptable. But your reflections on that, my friend?
See, all white folks, just white folks doesn't mean they are all racist. My wife is white, completely white, Irish and German. That doesn't mean she is a racist. She's the opposite. But you may be in a situation where somebody is saying racist things. Now, this is a similar situation like being around a bully. That person usually is very ignorant or a person who is racist and in power. So how you act in that group is going to be dictated if that is the boss, the top boss. And what are you going to say? You can choose to walk away. I mean, because that situation has so many different ways of precipitating how you should handle it. So I think in general, people should be aware that being racist is not okay. It's just not okay.
Last question, Ranjan, is what gives you hope for the future, given all that we've been talking about?
I am always hopeful. I am hopeful. The COVID has been one of the biggest challenge I have ever faced in my whole life. My core staff of 6 has worked with me for 26 years. Now, the census says, SBA says, 69% of all family-owned small independent business has closed for good, and I'm not going to be one of them. It is my action which is going to show you that I'm hopeful. And patience, persistence, tenacity, and being hopeful in the human race is the most important thing. And I am a part of that human race, and so are you. So we're not going to let the other bullies take over, because majority of us feel the love for everybody else and want to have a wonderful, enjoyable life, because life is just a blink.
So well spoken, my friend, and a life enjoyed together in celebration of a whole bunch of interesting and riveting cultures and food from around the world. So, Ranjan Dey, thanks so much for being with us today. Really appreciate what you've had to say. Looking forward to being in a post-COVID world where I can come to your restaurant in San Francisco. In a normal season, I'm in San Francisco quite a lot. Look forward to that day coming back. And when you're back from your current core staff of 6 to your fully up and running staff of 16 or so. So go well, my friend, and thanks for sharing your thoughts today.
Before we leave, I want to say namaste and the meaning of namaste.
Thank you.
Left hand represents the light in my soul. The right hand represents the light in your soul. we recognize each other's light, and we promise to live in light, love, and harmony. So, namaste.
Namaste, my friend.
Thank you.